Welcome to Plot Twist, your place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. Our film begins in Russia with Julia, the daughter of one of the leaders of the Russian army. Julia talks about her mother, who passed away many years ago, and since then, Julia has been living with her father. However, she constantly feels lonely and sad. The next day, Julia is at school, and the teacher tells the class that today is a historic day because meteors will appear in the sky, a cosmic phenomenon that happens only once every 50 years. He asks them to watch this event later. Julia goes home and asks her father, Dave, for permission to attend the event. He is very strict with her and refuses, then leaves for work. Julia's boyfriend, Tim, comes to her house and takes her out without her father's knowledge. They go to the rooftop of a hotel in the city where a large group of people has gathered to watch the meteors in the sky. There, Julia meets her friend Sylvia, who gives her the key to her apartment so Julia can spend time with Tim there. Sylvia stays on the rooftop to enjoy the meteor view. Meanwhile, a spaceship flying in space experiences a malfunction and enters Earth's atmosphere. The spaceship flies over Russia at an incredible speed, and the Russian army fires missiles at it, causing it to crash in Moscow, destroying many buildings along the way. The crash results in the death of many people, including Sylvia. Among the damaged places is the apartment where Julia and Tim were. Julia falls to the street, but Tim saves her at the last moment and rushes her to the hospital to treat her injuries. Julia regains consciousness in the hospital and is deeply saddened by Sylvia's death. After being discharged, Julia goes with her father to stay at her grandmother Yuli's house. Her father tells her she is strictly forbidden from leaving the house. Julia stays in her room, upset and grieving over Sylvia's death. Meanwhile, Dave goes to a parliamentary meeting with a man named Mikhail to discuss the aliens in the spaceship. Mikhail tries to communicate with the alien but suddenly collapses and loses consciousness. Dave later attends a parliamentary meeting where someone suggests eliminating the aliens. However, Dave warns them, saying the aliens are likely waiting to repair their spaceship before leaving. He cautions that they don't understand the aliens' technology, which could include weapons capable of destroying the entire Earth. Meanwhile, Tim and his friends are at their workshop, planning to drive the aliens out of the city. Julia arrives after escaping from her grandmother and tells Tim she stole a pistol from her father to help them. They all head to the spaceship's location, cautiously avoiding the army stationed everywhere. At the site of the explosion, an alien appears, startling Julia, who nearly falls off the building. The alien saves her at the last moment. Tim then shoots at the alien, causing it to fall to the ground. They quickly go down to capture it before it escapes. On the ground floor, they find the alien's suit but discover it is empty. Julia notices a man lying on the ground in front of her and suspects he might be the alien, though he looks like an ordinary human. They take the suit to their workshop, excited about defeating their first alien. They consider using the suit or selling it to become rich. One of them tries to wear the suit but finds it sticks to his body. He struggles to remove it, and they decide no one should touch the suit until they figure out how to hand it over to the army. The army arrives at the same building and finds a strange-looking alien device, which they take to a lab for analysis. Julia returns to the building and finds the man she saw earlier still there. She discovers he is the alien, but he is injured and bleeding. She quickly takes him to her car and drives to her school, where she consults her friend Google, a brilliant student studying medicine. Google examines the alien and says the bleeding is severe, and he urgently needs a blood transfusion. Julia calls her doctor and tells him she is on her way to the hospital. They disguise themselves as nurses and take the alien, named Harry, to the operating room. Julia asks Google to draw blood from her, but he is very afraid, so he loses consciousness while she draws the blood from herself. Afterwards, she loses consciousness as well. When she wakes up, she tries to talk to Harry, but he is very tired. At that moment, he grabs her hand, and the strange thing is that the bracelet he was wearing moves to Julia's hand. He loses consciousness again, and Julia tells him to go to Google's house, asking him to take care of Harry until she returns. She warns him to not tell anyone what happened, and then returns to her house to take a shower. While there, she notices that water is being drawn to the bracelet in her hand as if it were a magnet. Julia plays with the bracelet, then returns to Google's house, where Harry wakes up and begins speaking to them. Though he seems kind, Julia is still afraid of him. He assures her that he is not evil and needs to take the device he was with to return to the ship. Julia helps him and asks him to wear clothes before leaving. Harry dresses and goes out into the street, but on his way, the police stop him for breaking curfew and arrest him for lacking identification. Julia watches as he is taken to the police station, so she goes to him at the fence built around the spaceship. There he tries to keep people away while seeking to meet General Dave to tell him about the spacesuit in the workshop, but an officer beats him and he is arrested. Julia arrives and tells the guards she is General Dave's daughter and that her friend's arrest was a mistake. She gets Harry released but ignores her lover, who is also present. Meanwhile, doctors at a lab are trying to understand the Dot Company stone, but find nothing until a general notices the water being pumped into the stone, as if it were a magnet, and realizes that all the water in Russia is being sucked into the spaceship. The general informs the parliament about the impending water shortage, urging them to return the stone to the aliens to avoid provoking them. Although the parliament is convinced, they fear the stone might be a weapon. Meanwhile, the water crisis spreads and the army begins restricting water, leading to protests. Julia and Harry attempt to steal the Shilka stone, and she uses her connection to General Dave to gain access. Harry puts on a protective suit and enters the lab, where the scientists mistake him for General Ferdinand Ray. When he touches the stone, it opens, releasing a small blue stone. He quickly grabs it and escapes. The doctor is notified of the intrusion and stays behind to protect Harry. Later, Julia takes Harry to her house, where they meet her dog, Charlie, who is old and sick. Julia tells Harry about her mother's death and her sadness since then, asking him if aliens experience similar grief. Harry explains that aliens do not die, which is why they don't have feelings like humans. Later, Harry helps revive Charlie using his supernatural strength, and Julia thanks him. She also teaches Harry how to interact with humans, including how to eat. As they grow closer, Julia expresses her willingness to help Harry return to his ship, asking him if he will leave and never visit again. Harry reveals that he didn't originally come to Earth intentionally. He collided with meteors and entered the atmosphere by mistake. He tells her he will remember her for the rest of his life because she was the only one who helped him without fear. Julia finds concert tickets from her friend, and they attend the concert together. Harry then takes her to his planet, describing it as beautiful, free of the problems and wars on Earth, where all beings enjoy eternal life. He asks Julia to stay with him on his planet, but they are interrupted when they discover that Tum are in the workshop and move to the fence around the spaceship. Julia tries to help Harry reach his ship, but is confronted by Tum, who reveals that he knows Harry is an alien and accuses her of loving him. Tum and his friends attack Harry, beating him until one of them, Ross, hits Julia, sparking Harry's anger. He fights back, but Miskin shoots Harry with a gun, hitting another of the attackers. The army arrives, arrests both Julia and Harry, and takes them to the headquarters. Julia promises to stay by Harry's side until she gets him to the ship. Harry broadcasts a message calling on young people to fight the aliens, gaining significant attention and inspiring many to join him in an effort to destroy the spaceship. Despite opposition from a teacher who warns about the alien technology, they continue their mission. Meanwhile, at the workshop, Baker prepares to fight the aliens by wearing a spacesuit. General Dave, Julia, and Harry reach the ship, where Harry informs the general of a dangerous defense system that will eliminate anyone attempting to breach it. The general refuses Harry's request to fix it out of concern for his daughter, but Julia insists on accompanying Harry. While they are joined by a group of aliens trying to prevent the young people from reaching the ship, Tim arrives in a spacesuit, stronger than Harry. Julia tries to stop Tim with her car, but it flips over, and she loses consciousness. Harry fights Tim, but is overpowered. When Julia regains consciousness, she hits Tim with the car, destroying his spacesuit and returning him to his human form. Just as the general announces control of the situation, Tim shoots Harry and Julia with a weapon. Before they are finished off, Harry transfers his soul to Julia. Aliens then take Harry and Julia aboard the ship, along with General Dave. A creature informs the general that Harry was meant to travel to another planet, but entered Earth's atmosphere by mistake. A creature informs the general that Harry was meant to travel to another planet, but entered Earth's atmosphere by mistake, and that his love for Julia led him to sacrifice himself so she could live an eternal life. The creature assures the general that Julia's future will be different from what she expected. Julia awakens, but when she checks on Harry, she realizes that he has passed away. She begins a new chapter of her life, now immortal, carrying Harry's soul within her. After that, Julia is still in university, with his friend Google, who has admired her since then, but cannot confess his feelings because he fears losing her forever, especially since he knows about her relationship with the alien Harry. Julia is always accompanied by two guards from the army who never leave her side, Although she resents them, she has to accept their presence because she is in danger, as aliens could attack the planet at any moment to eliminate her. Additionally, people hate her because of the disasters that occurred when the spaceship landed on Earth, as Julia was the only one who helped the aliens during their time on the planet. After university, her father, General Dave, waits for her outside the campus to drive her home. She gets into the car with him and Google. Google goes to his job afterward, and Julia and her father head to the Army headquarters. There, a doctor begins conducting new experiments on her to discover her superpowers that were transferred to her by the alien. They also bring her ex-boyfriend Tim from prison. Tim suffers from a brain stroke that affected his ability to speak, and he tried to eliminate her and the alien before, leading to his imprisonment. Tim starts talking to her about their past relationship, which angers Julia, causing her to use her superpowers to manipulate water, resulting in a massive explosion in the lab. General Dave arrives and halts the reckless experiment, declaring that he will no longer allow any tests to be conducted on his daughter. Julia feels very upset about what happened and asks her father to let her spend a day alone without any guards. Despite the potential danger, he reluctantly agrees. At the end of the day, Julia goes to a bar in the city and starts drinking alcohol. She notices someone watching her and invites him to join her, mocking him by saying he is terrible at spying because she spotted him easily. It turns out the man, named Ivan, was sent by her father to keep an eye on her. Julia begins sharing her story with Ivan, expressing her sadness since losing her alien lover Harry and feeling like the loneliest person in the universe. However, Ivan disagrees, telling her he joined the army to provide a better life for his son and that her father always tries to ensure her safety and keep her away from danger. At that moment, her alien lover Harry appears. Julia initially thinks she is imagining him, but Harry suddenly attacks Ivan and then takes Julia, escaping from the bar. He remotely controls a car belonging to a couple outside the bar and gets in with Julia. The car drives itself and Yvonne chases after them. The car hits Ivan, causing him to fall to the ground, but he keeps pursuing them. He gets hit again and almost falls, but this time the car saves him. Harry starts controlling all the traffic signals on the road. At one intersection, the car crashes and the couple gets out. Harry and Julia continue their journey until they reach an abandoned place in the forest. Harry explains to Julia that he managed to survive the spaceship crash and lived like a human for the past few months. He even got a house, a new job, and started growing vegetables for food. Julia finds her lost cat, Charlie, which she had been searching for days. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door, and it turns out to be her friend Google. Julia feels betrayed and cannot believe they deceived her all these months. She tells Harry she was deeply saddened by their separation. Harry apologizes, explaining that he was trying to protect her because another spaceship is on its way to Earth. This spaceship is controlled by artificial intelligence, which is extremely evil and seeks to destroy the planet. The next day, Julia calls her father and tells him that Harry is still alive and she has decided to leave Earth with him. She also tells him that she considers herself an alien ever since she gained her superpowers from Harry. She hangs up the call, prompting General Dave to order his guards to track her location and find her. Meanwhile, Tim is still in the lab and asks a soldier for a cigarette. As soon as the soldier lets his guard down, Tim attacks him and gets into a military vehicle containing an alien suit. Tim wears the suit and quickly escapes from the lab. He runs until he reaches a location in the city center, removes the suit, and returns to his normal form. At that moment, military forces arrive at Harry's house and begin attacking. Harry tries to escape with Julia, but she gets shot in the shoulder. Harry quickly takes her and boards a spaceship to save her. The air forces pursue them, trying to eliminate Harry and Julia. General Dave is furious and cannot understand why the military is trying to kill his daughter. He gets into his car and rushes to save her. However, Harry loses control of the spaceship and decides to land in an isolated area. Tim reappears wearing the alien suit and attacks the spaceship, destroying it. The spaceship crashes to the ground and Harry and Julia fall as well. Julia is in critical condition, and Harry tells Tim they need a large amount of water to save her. Tim steals a car, and they all get in. Tim asks why the military is chasing them, and Harry explains that it's because of a spaceship called RA Dot, but he's very evil, and he wants to eliminate Julia. RA, an artificial intelligence controlling the technology on Earth, becomes a major threat as it seeks to eliminate Julia. General Dave arrives at the scene of an accident and instructs Evan to bring the spaceship to the Army headquarters. Meanwhile, the commander of a squad chasing Julia reveals a recording of the general supposedly ordering Julia's elimination, though the general denies giving such orders. It becomes clear that RA has taken control of Earth's technology and is now revealing the personal details of people's relatives, even contacting Officer Ivan and exposing his wife's illness, blaming Julia for it. Everyone turns against Julia, and she is now hunted. As Julia tries to escape in a car, Harry buys water before quickly returning to the car, and they flee. At Grandmother Google's house, Julia rests in a bathtub, using water to heal. Harry and Tim, meanwhile, go to lunch with Google and his grandmother. During this time, Tim secretly drugged Harry's drink, causing him to lose consciousness. They take him and Google to the Ministry of Defense, where General Dave, worried about his daughter's safety, confronts Harry and learns that RA, an artificial intelligence, seeks to eliminate Julia to save Earth. The general takes measures to stop the AI's control, including disabling all satellites and communication systems. And they return to primitive tools like the typewriter, because this is the only case where artificial intelligence will not be able to control their devices. The Minister of Defense agrees, hoping that the plan will succeed and they will be able to. They get rid of the ship at that time. The artificial intelligence, Julia, commits suicide and goes on a live broadcast to warn all the residents of the destruction that will be exposed to it. And they say that Julia is the reason for all the destruction that happened to the planet Earth, and that when they get rid of her, she will be the reason for ending the lives of many humans. At that time, Harry is with Tim, locked in a room in the Ministry of Defense, and Tim keeps provoking him and tells him that you are the reason for everything that is happening, Dot, and that if you hadn't landed on planet Earth a few months ago, nothing would have happened. He also tells him that Julia is in danger because of you, and that she was originally living in safety before she loved you. Harry gets angry at him and keeps hitting Tim until they hurt him, and he says to him, Tim, you were able to imitate humans in everything, even their feelings, and that you also began to dye their hair, love, and that you also began to dye their hair, love, and hate exactly like Hannah. But this time, Harry doesn't respond to him because he is worried about his beloved Julia, who is alone in the house, so she sleeps upstairs. Julia is trying to get out of the house, but the grandmother prevents her and tells her that she is wanted by the justice system now, and everyone is expelling her. And if you go out into the street now, your life will be in danger. At that moment, Ivan appears and comes to take Julia to the Ministry of Defense. Julia is with him and thanks him for saving her from the grandmother and getting her out of the house. But Ivan does not respond to her and tells her that he is carrying out the general's inquiries, nothing more. He sees her as the reason for everything that is happening on the planet, and that for the first time now, he hates his job very much because the general is doing his utmost to save her, even though she is a criminal, and if she continues to live on the planet much longer, the whole planet will be destroyed, and the only way to save the planet is that they must get rid of her. Anyway, on their way to the Ministry of Defense, a large group of people attacks and they want to get rid of Julia, but Ivan protects her. She thanks Julia very much for saving her. Ivan tells her that the first one wants to get rid of her because his son is in the hospital because of her, but at the same time he is carrying out General Fabio's orders to send her to the Ministry of Defense. Then he resigns from his job and wants to get rid of Julia because she is the reason for the destruction of planet Earth. At that time, the general goes to the headquarters of a satellite company in the middle of the city and attacks the company to use its satellite and attack the artificial intelligence ship. The general disconnects all the satellites spread in space in order to prevent the artificial intelligence from controlling them. After that, he decides to launch a huge missile at the ship. The missile succeeds in hitting the spaceship, but it does not destroy it. The spaceship keeps getting closer to planet Earth and draws the water inside the Earth, and also creates a fence around the city from the water to prevent anyone from leaving or entering the fence. Unfortunately, all the Army forces fail to pass the fence to eliminate the spaceship. The water level rises and water spills into all the city streets. They only have 15 minutes before the whole city is submerged. At that time, the general gives him one last chance to destroy the spaceship. His plan is to take his spaceship, and then he will enter the artificial intelligence to expel it. But he will need help from the general to show him the way because he will control the spaceship manually. This is to prevent the artificial intelligence from controlling it. Julia escapes from the Ministry of Defense and goes out to the street with Tom. She says at that time that she wants to end her life and that she really does not want to be the reason for destroying the planet and ending the lives of many people. She loves the city and Dave is there, so she tells Dave to finish her off to take revenge on her. Dave wants to finish her off and shoots her, but Tom saves her and takes the bullet instead. The general at that time is in the Ministry of Defense, and he clears the ministry of anyone inside it, and we know then that he decided to sacrifice himself to save the planet. So Harry is happy to reach the artificial intelligence ship. Then the city is is drowning in water and they are close to the end. Then Julia uses her superpower to control water and uses the water date to push the ship into space again. And Julia actually succeeds in becoming a national hero who saved the lives of many people. But the guilt over Tim's death, who died protecting her, weighs heavily on her. Julia decides to escape with Harry, leaving the chaos behind. The final scene shows the general visiting Julia and Harry on a deserted island, where they have chosen to live away from the turmoil of Earth. Julia expresses that she never wanted to hurt anyone, and the movie ends with the trio settling into their new life, far from the conflict. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.